Hi, I'm Bob Weiss. I'm the owner of Shaker Cigar Bar in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been here since 1986, and we're going to take you on a little tour in history of some of the darker sides of Milwaukee. We were known primarily for foodstuffs and for wines. In fact, that's why I named it Shakers. It was my intent to shake up the local food and beverage scene. We realized just from inception that there was something taking place here, and we might not have necessarily associated with being haunted, but that something was a little bit different here. So any of the people that were doing work on the job along with me would have experiences about how their tools would move, how they'd hear voices, how nobody else would be in the building at 8 o'clock in the morning, and yet they'd hear footsteps taking place, things like that. In 1987, we had two women come in, very busy Friday night, who stood in the middle of the back room here, and again, a very busy night, and the waitstaff had me come out of the kitchen to talk to them. As I walked up, these two women put their arms together to form a circle, and they said to me, "Put your hand inside of this circle." So I did that, and it was like a blast freezer. And they said, "This is the little girl who inhabits the ladies' room. Her name is Elizabeth," and they were able to coax her out to meet me. So, hello, Elizabeth. And from that point on, things really started to progress.
There's some things that you just can't explain logically. You'll be sweeping here at the end of the night by yourself, and there will be a set of footsteps sweeping right along with you, and it certainly makes you sweep faster and want to leave here. I have had my name called in the basement by nobody. It sounded like one of the ladies who worked here, and there's nobody to be seen.
We had a number of experiences, again, with the myriad other contractors that were here as well. So there wasn't one particular thing, but certainly the tools moving around, hearing someone else calling your voice when nobody else was here, things like that would just continue. To the point that there were times you just see like this smoke that would be rising up, and it wouldn't be a cigar I was smoking. It would be just this like a cloud of smoke that would appear. There's no source for it. It wasn't steam. It wasn't heat. It wasn't anything like that. And then just as quickly it would dissipate. As we would have staff that would go down for buckets of ice, have an experience, run out the front door. We would have big stocky delivery guys for beer, and they'd run upstairs and leave their hand carts behind. We had police officers walk downstairs and pull out their sidearms because you have the sensation there's something there, which means you malice or harm. There's nothing there. As more interest takes place, we did more research, and now we do tours of the entire 4 floors, 3 up and 1 down, and able to get the links with Prohibition, going back to the 1830s when this is a cemetery. So.
Yeah, and the tour is wonderful as well because it takes these components and it puts it in a very comprehensive manner so people can actually get the entire story in a very nice way, and it's just it's a nice night out. It's a fun thing to do, and it's also a little bit unnerving at times.
Well, it sure is that, but we look at this as being as much of a historical tour of Milwaukee as it is a ghost tour. Yes, we're haunted. Yes, these things take place that really defy explanation, but we also back this up by talking about what took place in Milwaukee.
Okay, so upstairs we have a very gorgeous 1,400 square foot penthouse. That was the upper tier bordello or whatever during the Prohibition era. So one girl basically ran that entire floor. One young hospitality worker was actually brutally murdered up there, and she remains up there to this day. It's definitely kind of a sad, desperate feel up there at times. There's a lot of unexplainable experiences. People have seen faces in the curtains. People have seen, shoes under the curtain where it doesn't belong, or where they don't belong rather. They've just heard tapping on the window with the trees that don't exist up there. Any number of things will actually drive people out of here. So people do actually come to spend the night there. It's not the Four Seasons, it's a adventure tourism sort of a situation, and if they can make it through the night, that's excellent. Most people run out screaming by about midnight, if not 3 o'clock in the morning. So
along that line, we even had our own experience. And about 1.5 years ago, where we had attempted to spend the night upstairs, and we ran like schoolgirls. Mm-hmm. And again, I've been here for over 25 years, so there are just some times that things are a little more heavy or pervasive or ugly, malicious perhaps, and we found one of those.
It sounded like a piano being moved on the second floor. It's 3:30 in the morning. There's nobody else in the building. You would go to one spot on the 3rd floor, and it felt like something is crushing you from all sides like a trash compactor, and you can't break free from this. There were cold spots. It was one of those August nights where it's 90 degrees and 100% humidity at 3 in the morning, and it was 60 degrees, and the arms on your, or the hair on your arms is standing up on end. So it was for good reason. It wasn't just because it was creepy feeling. It was coming at you from all angles. And again, he's been here forever, and I'm a very logical person, and that did not feel logical, so we ran.
The things here, for the most part, are just unusual. There are a couple of things, even when I found the bones of one of the hospitality workers upstairs, that was a little bit unnerving by itself. There was a period of time for several months that I would not go upstairs. I've done tours where we've again had big stocky guys that just break down and are bawling their eyes out, and some of those just run out of the place. There are times that the feelings are odd, and sometimes that the feelings are a little bit playful, like with Elizabeth in the ladies' room, and sometimes that they're creepy to the point you just want to get away.
A lot of people do feel very comfortable in the ladies' room with Elizabeth because it is the spirit of an 8-year-old girl, so it's nothing malicious there per se, whereas the basement is a lot heavier and there's something a little more aggressive maybe. And then the third floor can go either way. You have a young lady named Molly who was brutally murdered up there, and a lot of people who go up there either feel a very deep connection with her, comfortably, or they just feel sad. And, again, we've had grown men come down in tears, just, I can't explain this. This is the saddest thing I've ever been through. So
first, let me say that one of the things that people see the most of downstairs are like these shadowy objects that I guess are called shadow people, but you literally see what is moving, but there's no one there. And it's not like if you go back and look where the light source is, there shouldn't be a shadow cast in a direction, but it's like a darker than dark kind of a thing, and that's what people describe the most, especially staff going down for like ice or backstock or something like that.
As far as what is down there, clearly the building was built over a cemetery. So that was there in the mid-1800s. When the building was built in 1894, they excavated most of the bodies and took them to Forest Home, and some of them just didn't make the list. They weren't important enough, they didn't have enough money, they didn't get moved. So if you go to the basement, it's a very shallow basement, so clearly having something built over the top of existing bodies is going to cause a ruckus. And then, there's things that take place. When this was a rip-roaring speakeasy back in the late Prohibition times, the basement was the least trafficked floor. You weren't allowed to go down there unless you were making a deal, and so if 5 guys went down and they're trying to make a deal so they can get some money from the trickle-down economics at that time, and only 3 guys come back up, and all of a sudden the dirt floor's got a little mound under there, nobody notices these things. So there's a number of contributing factors to why the basement's so active.
Certainly from the different psychics who come here, and there's an awful lot of people of different disciplines that come through the doors, that has prompted us to do our own research. Certainly the hospitality worker whose bones I found in 2001, we do a lot of business with the federal government, and I called someone at the Bureau, and they called MPD, and then they brought in the medical examiner, who promptly took the bones away. And their analysis, as they brought the bones back to us, is that the bones were about 70 years old. This is 2001, so it's during Prohibition. That they were, half the bones were domestic animal, and the other half the bones were a person, and they were female. And then we were able to ascertain that there was a large Irish community in the 3rd Ward at one point. A disproportionate number of the working girls at one point during Prohibition seemed to be Irish. A young lady named Molly Brennan is the name that people typically come up with for her.
We've been here for 27 years as an establishment, as Shakers. So the people that have come through the door in that time have had experiences 10 years apart, never knowing each other, and they're spot on. This is Molly. This is Molly.
Now, we have really turned a corner some time ago, maybe 3 years ago, where we went from an emphasis on food and wines, and certainly on cigars as the only cigar bar, but then the power of the ghost is significant. We do ghost tours now Tuesday through Saturday nights. We have 3 each on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and 5 or 6 each on Friday and Saturday, and we're filled.
I'm Kelly Getzky. I'm one of the tour guides here at Shaker's Cigar Bar. Quite a few memorable experiences actually in the cellar. One of the first actually is there's a portion of the cellar where it's all the way in the back actually of the bar, and there's stairs to nowhere down there. And one day during the tour, I was standing in front of the stairs. I had probably about 7, 8 people around me, and as I was talking, it felt like 2 hands on my chest had actually shoved me up against the door by the stairs. Literally knocked the wind out of me. Not so much that it was a forceful shove, but just the coldness on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk. I had to stop my tour. Even at that point, it didn't deter me from working here because it was one of the first times that I had an experience down in the cellar. Right away, my brain is trying to rationalize, okay, maybe I tripped, maybe there was a cold breeze, something. And roughly about a month later, I was in the same spot of the cellar, and again, had probably about a good dozen people around me during the tour. And as I was talking, it was like someone had taken a whole handful of my hair and yanked my head back, to the point where everyone in the tour had yelled out because they actually saw my hair lift up. Yeah, and I'm not a drinker, but I came upstairs, down like 3 shots of tequila. I mean, I had tears in my eyes. It really scared me. And now I'm to the point where I don't even go to that part of the cellar unless I'm on a tour. And even if I'm on a tour, like, I will avoid that side of the room. I will give my tour from across the room. I mean, I've had a lamp thrown at us during a tour, and everything that's happened to me has been on a tour. So I'm not crazy. Tons of times you look down the walkway of the cellar and you're constantly seeing shadows darting back and forth. Constantly makes you question, what you're seeing, what you're hearing down there. Up on the 3rd floor of the penthouse during a tour, had a book thrown across the room. Hear 2 women having a full-on conversation coming up the stairs to the penthouse. Tried explaining it off to really anything that I possibly could, but just the fact that he heard it with me, I thought was pretty awesome.
My name is Charles Bruss. I'm a founding member of Brew City Paranormal. We don't believe in orbs as being ghosts or spirits. In some places you'll get several EVPs. Why does that happen? We don't know. There could be so many different factors. Humidity, could be something to do with the lunar cycles. The high tides, low tides. You try to document every time all those different instances of all the temperatures and all that. And then if something happens at a certain point and then it happens again later on down the road with about the same circumstances, that might lead to something that says, this might be just the right conditions in which something can happen.
Hello, my name is Julie Carr. I am one of the owners of the Brumder Mansion. It was built in 1910 by George Rumder Sr. for his son, George Jr. But George wanted to find somebody who was going to take care of his house. And George could tell that Sam was going to be a terrific owner. So he sold the place to him. And later on, it went through a variety of owners, and it became a place for Milwaukee students to stay and business people. And finally, in 1948, Our Savior's Lutheran Church came up from South Milwaukee, and they bought it, and they bought this house and the whole block, and this house became the parsonage. It became a place for their youth and Sunday school classes, and it became the foundation house next door in the 70s. It became a place for children and youth programs. We have children, too. This little guy named Timmy, he liked to run around and hide in the closets and knock things over. Like the actresses downstairs, one of them, in front of her play, she had this drink thing, and it'd be knocked over every night, and no one was there. So that's Timmy. Timmy liked to kick things and knock things over.
I was a novice when I started out. I co-founded a different group in 2005, and I kind of learned from them, another person who had been doing it for about 10 years previously, and watching ghost hunters and seeing what they did. But then I did a lot of reading, a lot of researching online about the equipment, what was good, what were the differences between the two, or the many different types of equipment that is out there. And that was really when I started realizing that a lot of what is shown on TV is very cursory. It's a very surface level kind of snapshot of what goes into an actual investigation. And it was only through reading some books, which there's lots of books out there, but finding some good books about paranormal investigation, and specifically about the equipment, which is what intrigued me. Because from the scientific standpoint, personal experiences are great for that person because they believe it and they think that's what happened. But for someone who wasn't there, for the skeptics among us, it was very difficult to try to take someone's personal experience and, maybe like, well, I don't think this person's lying. I truly believe that they believe that they experienced this, but they may have misperceived what actually occurred. So they believe it, but it's a misperception, and there wasn't actually anything paranormal going on. And there's a difference between that and just outright lying, which there are those people as well. So what I really focused on was trying to gather evidence of what these experiences were, and trying to find tools that would give me the best possibility of doing that. A lot of the claims in the paranormal are related to environmental factors, things like temperature, humidity, EMF, which is electromagnetic fields, which are all around us all the time, barometric pressure. All these things are reported to have some sort of fluctuations and things like that during a paranormal event. However, a lot of times there isn't actual readings associated with it. It's usually a feeling. It felt colder. There was a breeze, supposedly, before something happened. I felt the hair on my arms stand up right before I was touched. These are things that are reported many times by many different people, but it's not a scientific instrument that's reporting this. It's a person. And we're very fallible as human beings. We mistake things all the time. And so I try and put science behind what these reports were. I would try to find pieces of equipment that would be able to independently verify what people were reporting. What I found when I started using this equipment was that a lot of times when people they said it felt colder, there wasn't actually any temperature change. So, well, what is this associated with? Well, it's a psychological factor a lot of times. They knew they were in a haunted location. They were investigating ghosts or the paranormal or whatever it is. And so there's a subconscious expectation that there was some of these things that are known to be reported pretty much mainstream nowadays about what's associated with the haunting.